Logan Sargeant might have sealed his fate even before what he would originally anticipate, which was scheduled to be at the end of 2024, as the last crash during FP3 in Zandvoort has forced Vowles to look for a mid-season change that would benefit his team for the greater good of both sides. With Sauber being the only team to pick a full-time driver for 2025, this could be the greatest opportunity for drivers like Lawson and Schumacher, who are now considered favourites to replace Sargeant in the last 9 races of the season. But which driver will the Grove-based squad opt for, and can this be the moment they've been waiting for their entire F1 careers? It's safe to say that Sargeant's drive in Formula 1 is more or less done after the last FP3 crash in Zandvoort, in which he put himself at the top of the list when it comes to damage dealt to the car. This is the last thing you'd want to do when you're fighting for a career in F1, and the fact that Sargeant is very unlikely to continue as an F1 driver might have taken the motivation out of him for the last 10 races in the season as well, because a hefty crash like the one he did in Zandvoort is very hard to explain. Be that as it may, Vowles has lost his patience and is now pushing towards a replacement for Sargeant in the form of a temporary driver who could use the last 9 races of the season as a jumping board to launch themselves in the eyes of Sauber for 2025. These two drivers are Mick Schumacher and Liam Lawson, but it seems like the bigger chance stands in the way of the German driver due to the close connections Mercedes and Williams have, even though the Grove-based squad has been loud and clear when it comes to their drivers' lineup. We won't accept drivers just because we're a customer team. However, this is a matter of damage limitation, and they will need a driver who will be desperate to prove that he's made out of F1 material, especially if that particular driver is able to score points and maybe launch Williams a place or two in the Constructors' Championship now that they've significantly upgraded their car for the second half of the season. Right now, the lead seems to be on Schumacher's side, who hoped that a potential seat in Alpine would be available. But after he found out that the French team signed Doohan through social media, it was more than clear to him that he's not desired there, and maybe the hopes for an F1 future are gone. This small light at the end of the tunnel called Williams can definitely salvage his career, and considering the fact that Vowles and Wolff are very close, as well as considering how big of an impact Mick Schumacher had over Mercedes fixing their issues thanks to the overnight simulator work in Brackley, a call might be made from one colleague to another for a small favor. Again, the goal would not just be damage limitation and not crash the car further, causing financial issues for Williams, but maybe score a couple of points, and together with Albon maybe put Williams out there on the map for the remainder of the season. Right now, the team has upgraded their car to a great extent, which propelled the Thai driver to Q3 in Zandvoort, but after the disqualification it was obvious that it wasn't done in a proper and legal way. Still, that doesn't take away from the fact that the team is making baby steps towards considering points finishes, and if there is a strong second driver who can pick up where Albon has left, the Grove-based squad might just as well move from point zero. Every point counts, and if Williams moves in the Constructors' Championship one place above, it means they will get around 10 million euros more in cash prize, which would be from an extreme value headed into 2025, and they will most likely ride this honor down to the driver who replaced Sargeant in the remainder of 2024. But as always, F1 is a cruel sport, and there are no certainties when it comes to fighting for a full-time seat. Therefore, to say that Schumacher is guaranteed this seat is an overly dreaming scenario, because there is a driver named Liam Lawson who is aiming to return to the sport after the 5-race stint he's had in 2023 as a full-time driver, and the 9 remaining races with Williams might be the perfect fit for him. Red Bull have openly discussed this loan, allowing him to race elsewhere if it means that he will gather more experience when the time comes up to drive for either Red Bull or Racing Bulls, even though Horner has openly denied Marco's claim that Lawson is guaranteed a seat for 2025. When talking about the potential loan to Williams, Marco said, "If the opportunity is good for a young driver and he can gain some race experience, we wouldn't stand in the way." Of course, it's worth noting that Marco has openly stated there is a seat saved for Lawson in 2025, but this has been heavily denied by Horner, who talked about the current talent that they have in their pool and that they're not in a particular need to rush any decision. Hence, no guarantees can be delivered left and right to drivers who are even currently in an F1 seat. Obviously, the power shift in Red Bull hasn't stopped, as they're now under a huge threat to lose both of the championships, considering how fast of a car McLaren produced with their latest upgrade package. And this could have a huge effect on Lawson's future with the team too. Finding yourself in such a toxic and non-working environment can be extremely hurtful for your F1 career, as you wouldn't be able to produce the best results and give the best version of yourself working under such conditions. When talking about Marco's guarantee to Lawson, Horner went on to say, "Nothing is fixed. At the moment, we've still got a few weeks to make those decisions. Obviously, we know the situation with Checo and the contract that he has. With Daniel and Liam, there are options within their agreements that obviously we won't talk about in public until things are concluded. This is not a guarantee that Lawson won't be considered for a Red Bull affiliated seat. It's just the fact that the Austrian team has a bigger problem on their hands right now that they need to fix, and that is the behavior of the car. With so many drivers on their hands, they do not worry about losing some of them to other teams, which Marco stated it's not possible, as he will do anything in his power to give Lawson a seat in 2025. If he doesn't, the Kiwi driver will be open to leaving the nest and joining another team from the upcoming season, so the 9-race stint with Williams might prove as crucial for him when it comes to the talks with Audi and Sauber. The entire reconstruction in Sauber has led everybody to believe that nothing is certain there anymore, and with the appointing of Mattia Binotto, even Bottas himself admitted that the contract talks have reset, and anything is on the table right now. But strangely enough, the Swiss engineer is very unlikely to take any of these drivers into consideration when it comes to partnering up with Hülkenberg, as he's ready to promote an F2 talent, Gabriel Bortoleto, who's being represented by Fernando Alonso, to Audi. This would make a significant and bold step in Audi's ways of competing at the front as early as possible, cutting down the 3-year mark that they've set for themselves before entering the sport with their own engine in 2026. But right now, it's obvious that they will look at Williams and the developments that Vowles and Sargeant will have in the remainder of the season. What is more than certain now is that Williams are looking ahead to the 2025 season, but that doesn't mean they're willing to spend as much money as possible on fixing the cars that Sargeant and Albon keep crashing to the point of no return. Albon is at least racing properly and has scored 2 points for the squad so far, which is enough for P9, but that is still a drop of 2 positions compared to where they finished in 2023, which means they will get more wind tunnel but a lot less prize money, as they're desperately hoping that they can attract more sponsors and more serious investors with their latest move to sign Sainz from 2025 onwards. Therefore, it's safe to assume that if there is a driver to replace Sargeant, it would most likely be someone who can push the car to the absolute extremes and potentially score a point or two now that they're desperately needed. So with this in mind, do you think that Schumacher or Lawson will be given the opportunity of their lifetime to salvage their F1 careers? Let us know in the comments below.